Gonzaga basketball is back. However, Tyon Grant-Foster's quest to join the team took a big hit over the weekend.
You are Locked On Zags, your daily podcast on the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, folks? Welcome into the Locked On Zags podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host and longtime Gonzaga podcaster, Andy Patton, here to bring you news and updates on all things Zag athletics. Today's episode is brought to you all by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. So download the FanDuel app today. Well, it is a live post-game episode here of Locked On Zags, just a few minutes after Gonzaga's 111-62 win over Northwest University, an NAIA school, in their first exhibition game of the season. We are going to talk about what we saw in this exhibition game, a tremendous performance from freshman Davis Fogel, some great stuff from the point guards, Jalen Worley, excellent as well. We're going to get into all of that. In the second segment of the show, we're going to close out the show talking about Sam Funches, the 7-foot center from Mississippi who committed to Gonzaga on Friday. Want to make sure we celebrate Gonzaga landing their second recruit in the 2026 class. But we are leading the show. Instead of talking about the exhibition game, we got to talk about the biggest news that happened over the weekend. The NCAA denied a waiver for Grand Canyon transfer Tyon Grant Foster, meaning that he is now no longer eligible to play for Gonzaga this upcoming season. That practice waiver that he got a few weeks ago from the NCAA is now null. He is out for right now. And it is important to acknowledge that this is for right now. This is not the final end of this story. Despite it being an ongoing conversation for months at this point, Tyon Grant Foster's status for this upcoming season is still to be determined because Grant Foster has an injunction, a hearing on Thursday for a preliminary injunction in Spokane County. What this means is effectively when Tyon Grant Foster found out that he was not going to be given a waiver from the NCAA, he has filed a lawsuit against the NCAA. Lawsuits obviously take months, in many cases years, to fully finalize. So what Grant Foster and his representatives have done is they have filed to get a preliminary injunction hearing, which means if granted, he will then be able to, basically it freezes the rules and says, we're going to put a pause on any ruling in this specific case and allow you to proceed as normal, which in this case would be getting the opportunity to play. Because if you let this lawsuit play out and Grant Foster wins the lawsuit 6 months, 9 months, 2 years from now, it doesn't do you any good. It's completely irrelevant at that point. Grant Foster needs an answer now or within the next 2 weeks. So a preliminary injunction, again, if granted, a judge would basically determine, we believe that you have a strong enough case in your lawsuit that we're going to allow you to continue to play right now while this lawsuit is ongoing. The likely scenario, if that is granted, is that Grant Foster would be able to suit up for Gonzaga for this upcoming season because the lawsuit would not be able to be settled and finalized within the scope of the upcoming 25-26 season. That does not mean that the preliminary injunction is going to be granted necessarily, but it means that if it were to happen, the likeliest outcome is that Grant Foster would then get to suit up for Gonzaga for this upcoming season as normal, or as normal as it can be, considering what has been an insane, long, drawn-out, capital F frustrating situation for Grant Foster and for Gonzaga at large. Here is the timeline that was prepared by the great Theo Lawson, who broke the news about Grant Foster's waiver being denied on Saturday evening. This is what, and we kind of thought that maybe there was stuff happening behind the scenes. I mentioned this a few times for those of you who listens to the multiple episodes talking about Tyon Grant Foster, is that a lot of the frustration is, why haven't we heard anything from the NCAA? And we kind of thought it's possible that we have, or that they have, and that it just is not being reported. And Gonzaga plays things close to the chest. The NCAA certainly plays things close to the chest. And it turns out there have been a whole lot of conversations and various rulings and decisions that have happened throughout the summer. Again, per Theo Lawson, The initial waiver was submitted by Gonzaga on June 6th, which was about a week after Tyion committed to Gonzaga, I believe on May 28th. The waiver was then denied by the NCAA only a few weeks later on June 24th. Gonzaga then sent a reconsideration request on July 17th. So about 3 weeks later, they gathered some more data, submitted a request that said, hey, can you look at this again? And then it took about 2 months, and the NCAA got back to it and denied that request on September 12th. Gonzaga then appealed again, this time on September 25th. About a week after that is when the NCAA gave Tyon Grant-Foster the practice waiver, which allowed him to participate at Kraziness in the Kennel, which has allowed him to be around the team in practices over the last couple of weeks. And then that appeal was denied by the NCAA on Friday, October 17th. From there is when Tyion went ahead with the proceedings to get a lawsuit going against the NCAA and submitted the request to get a preliminary injunction hearing, which again will happen on Thursday. We will know more, hopefully, shortly after Thursday. I don't know if a judge will make a determination regarding his preliminary injunction hearing on Thursday, whether it'll happen on Friday, whether it'll happen the following Monday, but it should happen very soon. The whole point of these preliminary injunction hearings is to expedite the process and have some kind of decision very shortly before actually waiting for the entire lawsuit to get dragged out. Worth pointing out that judges have granted preliminary injunctions in similar cases. In fact, the very recent example being when two-time transfers were very suddenly all eligible to participate in college basketball right away. If you remember this, it was a couple of years ago. Former Zag Efton Reed was one of the players who benefited from this. He was at Wake Forest, planning to sit out that year because he'd already transferred from LSU to Gonzaga and from Gonzaga to Wake Forest. Suddenly the rule changed because of a preliminary injunction where they said, hey, if you're part of this lawsuit suing the NCAA saying you should be able to play right away, the injunction was granted and they were able to play instantly. It was chaos. It was not a great situation for college basketball, but it was a good situation for those players and good precedent in this case that, hey, maybe Grant Foster will in fact get this injunction granted, will then be able to suit up. The NCAA will likely push the lawsuit so that it is not settled until after the season. And basically Grant Foster will win in the sense that he will get to suit up for Gonzaga this season. The NCAA's attempt to first of all, we could spend a lot of time on why this is just a nuclear dumb decision by the NCAA, why it makes no sense that a player in Grant Foster's situation is not granted a waiver by the NCAA. We've talked about it extensively for the last couple of months on Locked On Zags. But to clarify, in case you're unclear, the main rule that the NCAA is attempting to enforce here is their 5-year window. And it's undebatable that Tyon Grant-Foster has been playing college basketball for longer than 5 years. The first season he suited up at the collegiate level was at Indian Hills Community College, a junior college in Kansas City. And that was in 2018, 7 years ago. There's no debate that he has exceeded the 5-year window. He got a waiver for his final season at Grand Canyon in 24-25 because he had missed those 2 full seasons at DePaul where he played literally one half of a basketball game, and that season at Kansas, which was in 2021, which was the COVID year. So that does not count against him eligibility-wise. However, since the NCAA granted him that waiver for 24-25, since that happened, the NCAA also changed a ruling saying that if you have played at a junior college, if some of your eligibility was taken up because of junior college, you are being given an extra year. This is what Michael Ajayi utilized to play at Butler this year, despite playing 2 years at JUCO, 1 year at Pepperdine, 1 year at Gonzaga. He should be done, but he got an extra year because he played at JUCO. The NCAA not enforcing that rule for Tyon Grant-Foster is ridiculous. He also played at a junior college. If you're going to tell players that they get another year because they played at a JUCO, you can't just pick and choose when to implement that rule. I do not understand why they think that they can just not apply this rule to this specific situation. Yeah, Tyon Grant-Foster is 25 years old. Yeah, he's been in college for a really long time. Yeah, that is all true. But it is not a valid reason to deny a player eligibility when you made a ruling over the last 12 months that should have given him an extra year. It's also worth pointing out that Tyon Grant-Foster would not be the oldest player in college basketball. Chad Baker-Mazar is going to turn 27 this year, and he's starting playing for USC. So that is not a valid ruling either. I suspect, and again, I don't want to make any promises. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but I still believe that Tyon Grant-Foster will play for Gonzaga this year. I believe that this preliminary injunction will be granted, and I believe that he will suit up for Gonzaga. I'm not as confident that he's going to play for Gonzaga as I was 3 days ago, but I still remain optimistic that not that the NCAA will do the right thing. They already have proven they will not, but that a judge in Spokane County will do the right thing, grant this injunction, and put Grant Foster in a position to play his final season at Gonzaga, which should have happened a very long time ago. Well, folks, we're going to take a look at what happened on Sunday, a few minutes ago, for those of you listening live, as Gonzaga took down Northwest University, the first official game of the season, at least exhibition game of the season. Steel Venters drew the start at small forward in place of Tyon Grant-Foster, but it was Davis Fogel and Jalen Worley who really stole the show on Sunday. More on what we saw from them coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, we are in the thick of the NFL season, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets that you can use all across the app. One of the great things about FanDuel is that it fits however you like to bet, whether that's player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're just watching your team or trying to keep an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit of extra energy to your Sundays. Well, the Grant Foster news did not change the odds for Gonzaga, looking at a national championship, still remain at plus 3,500. Graham Eke's odds to win the Wooden Award remain at plus 5,000. So, folks, if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly known as Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system that you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. And Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so you don't have to keep carrying around two phones or relying on a landline. And their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep business moving even when you're off the clock. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, folks, segment 2, still Andy Patton, still Locked On Zags podcast, and we're moving away from talking about Tyon Grant-Foster for now. We will talk about him plenty over the next week or so as we wait to see what happens with this preliminary injunction on Thursday. But we got to talk about the freshest Gonzaga news, which was their 111-62 dominant blowout win over Northwest University, an NAIA school based in Kirkland, Washington. It was the first exhibition game of the season. And according to the broadcast, for those of you who saw this, the earliest first home game for Gonzaga in program history. Again, not an official game in the sense that it won't go in the record book, but it is the first or the earliest time that Gonzaga has ever played a different opponent for a season. So definitely a unique thing that we got to see on Sunday. Everybody played for Gonzaga in this game except for Grant Foster. Obviously, we already covered that, as well as Emmanuel Inocente. Inocente got a little banged up towards the end of Kraziness in the Kennel. Didn't really hear a significant report on what happened there, but it was reported about 24 hours before this event that he was likely not going to play. Again, because we're recording this right afterwards, we haven't heard Mark Few's post-game comments, so it's possible there's going to be an update on Inocente's status soon. I didn't get the impression that it was particularly concerning long-term for Inocente, but certainly something to keep an eye on, especially with Grant Foster's status what it is at this point. Any missed time from Innocente would be a concern for Gonzaga going forward. Zags dominated in this game as you'd expect them to against any NAIA opponent, shot about 62% on 2-point attempts, only 33% from three, 7 of 21, which is not horrible, but not great. They did struggle from the free throw line, 24 of 42. You love getting 42 free throw attempts, but 57% from the line is problematic, and certainly an issue that I suspect right now, as we're recording this live, Mark Few is talking to his team about, probably with a bit of an elevated voice, because I don't think he's going to be happy about 57% from the line, regardless of the opponent or final score in that specific case. Prior to the game, we laid out our 5 things that we're going to be watching for in this contest. I'm going to go through those here and what we ended up seeing from those specific things in this game. Number 1 was curiosity about how the point guard minutes are going to shake out, because a few days prior to this exhibition game, Mark Few had told John Rothstein on a podcast that he believes that Mario Saint-Superi is going to push Braden Smith for playing time at the point guard position. And we thought, well, maybe we'll see them kind of in a timeshare in this scrimmage on Sunday. That's exactly what happened. Both of them played exactly 20 minutes in this game. Braden Smith was really good in the first half, played very little in the second half. Mario did virtually nothing in the first half and was pretty darn good down the stretch of this game. Smith finished with 15 points, 4 assists. He was 4 of 6 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. In this one, Saint-Superi had 12 points, 4 boards, and an assist. He was 4 of 5 from the field and knocked down both of his 3-point attempts. Smith looked great. I mean, he got fouled on a 3-point attempt early. He missed his first couple of free throws, which was part of the problem for Gonzaga, but really played well throughout that first half. He was aggressive. He was looking for his shot. When they ran pick and rolls, he looked smooth in there. There was a few mistakes, but you kind of expect that in an early exhibition game. He had a great steal and an assist to Miller in transition. He was really active defensively, trying to knock the ball loose. We saw that a lot from Gonzaga. Pretty much on every drive, somebody was getting their hands in there trying to poke that ball loose. I really thought Smith played really well in this game. And again, Mario in the first half had 3 fouls and nothing else. He did not take a shot. He did not get a rebound or an assist. He ended up finishing with 12 points, like we said, had a much stronger second half, but it still looks to me like he's getting his bearings in a way that Smith is not. Smith looks more ready. Smith looks more kind of prepared to run this specific Gonzaga offense at this point than Mario. That does not mean that it'll stay that way all season long, but going into the year, I think the confidence level for what Braden Smith can do at point guard, especially in games against Oklahoma and Creighton and Arizona State and some of those other early season games, Smith's going to be the guy playing the majority of those minutes, whereas Mario might kind of come along a little bit slower. Although, again, once he got going in this game, he looked pretty darn good. He had an incredible bounce pass to Jalen Warley in transition, just the kind of pass that Jalen Suggs is one of the only other players I can really remember making in a Gonzaga uniform. There's some real talent there for Mario. Key number 2 or takeaway number 2 was, what role do we see from Ike and Huff when sharing the floor? And these guys both look great. Both of them played under 20 minutes in this game, as you would expect in an exhibition game. We saw very little of them in the second half, but early on, it was Graham Ike down low and Braden feeding him the rock. Huff had 3 assists in the first 3 minutes of this game, and every single one of those assists was to Graham Ike. 2 of them were down low. 1 of them was a kick-out 3-point attempt. These guys look great, and you would expect that against this opponent. But it's worth remembering, while these are the 2 veteran players on the roster, they don't have a ton of experience playing together on the floor, and that did not look like the case. They looked smooth as butter in this game. There was a play at one point where Braden had the ball down on the block. He was kind of feeling out his defender. As soon as he put the ball on the deck, they double teamed, which is not surprising. As soon as that double came, Graham flashed to the middle of the paint. Braden immediately found him, hit him on a pass. At that point, Graham laid it in easily, got fouled and won, hit the free throw. It was a beautiful play, the kind of play that will work against any opponent. And seeing Huff look more comfortable with double teams, looking more comfortable as a passer, is a huge sign. If Huff is not developed as a passer, this whole 2 big man lineup doesn't work nearly as smoothly. So seeing him look comfortable in that role, comfortable handling those double teams, is a huge sign of growth from him and a huge sign of things to come positively for this team. Number 3 was Steele Venters, how he looks in this game. He looked solid. He looked pretty good. Again, he was the starter. He was not the star performer on the wing necessarily, but he had 9 points. He only went 1 of 4 from 3, but they were pretty good attempts for the most part, just didn't quite fall the way you'd normally like them to. He had 4 boards and a pair of assists in 23 minutes as well, got out in transition, had a dunk. A steal and a dunk is enough for me to feel pretty confident about how Steel Venters is moving right now. He did not look like he was limited athletically, still had some issues defensively. There was a handful of times where he got caught in screens and was late rotating over, gave up some open 3-point attempts. The defense is definitely going to be an issue for Steele, especially as I think he's trying to get his feet underneath him. But I was pretty impressed with what he looked like, even if the numbers maybe don't pop off the screen as much as they will in other games this year. Number 4 was the look at the other transfers, and Adam Miller didn't have a great game. There's just no other way to kind of break it down here. He was 0-5 from 3. He's on this team to knock down threes, and he didn't do it in this game, but he had some other nice plays, some good assists, some good, a really good pass at one point to Davis Fogel down low. I thought he was active and engaged and looked good on the floor, just didn't knock down the shots the way you need him to. But Jalen Worley was excellent. 9 points, 13 rebounds, and an assist in this game, 3 of 8 from the field, 3 of 4 from the line. Jalen Worley is a power forward. We talked about this a handful of times throughout the offseason that maybe Worley would end up playing some small ball 4. But in a game where Tyon Grant-Foster did not play, in a game where Emmanuel Inocente did not play, I kind of thought Worley would spend a lot of time at the 3. The fact that he played the majority of his minutes at power forward, even without 2 other potential contributors on the wing, is a pretty clear sign of what Mark Few wants to do with him. For reference, Parker Jefferson did not come into this game until the final 5 minutes. It was clear that Jalen Worley is this team's backup power forward, and he looked great. Tons of offensive rebounds. When he got defensive rebounds, he grabbed the ball and just went because he's a playmaker, because he's a guard playing the 4. He did what we used to see Chet Holmgren do, grab a rebound and just bring the ball all the way up the floor. At one point, he brought the ball all the way into the key and made a beautiful bounce pass to Fogel for an easy dunk. It was tremendous basketball. Jalen Worley was the player I was second most impressed with. We'll get to that in a second. But I really liked what Worley did, and I think he's going to be an excellent player for this team, however they deploy him. Although, man, it sure looked like he's going to play a lot of power forward this upcoming season. And then our last key for this game was, how do the freshmen look? How do the walk-ons look? How do the guys who maybe aren't going to be in the rotation look? Well, Davis Fogel looked like somebody who might end up being in the rotation. The future for Davis Fogel is very bright, and that future, it might be now or very, very soon. He had a team-high 18 points in this game. He was 8 of 12 from the field, only had 1 rebound and 1 assist, but he was a wrecking ball in transition, loved getting out and running, was very active with the ball in his hands. He looks to score every time he had that basketball. Aggressive drives, got to the free throw line, converted at the stripe, didn't knock down his outside shots, but he had 3 dunks in this game, a couple of them in transition. One of them was that great pass from Jalen Worley that we talked about. And then he had back-to-back mid-range shots off the dribble. He's penetrating. He's pulling up at the free throw line. He's hitting jump shots. I mean, he just looked really, really smooth, really talented in this game. I was incredibly impressed by what Davis Fogel brought to the table, to the point where it looks, I'm not sure how they're going to fit a rotation. When Emmanuel Inocente is healthy, that's 10. That's even without Tyon Grant-Foster there at 10. I thought Fogel was the odd man out. I'm not so sure about that anymore. He looked tremendous in this game. I still don't think he's going to be like a starter or a 20-minute per game guy necessarily, but man, when his number is called, he is going to contribute for this team. It was very clear based on his performance in this game as well. Like I mentioned before, Parker Jefferson, we've talked about whether we think he's going to redshirt or not. Let me put it this way. Noah Holland, who is a redshirt on the team last year, a walk-on type player, he played 11 minutes as a 6'9" forward. Parker Jefferson played 5 minutes. Parker Jefferson came into the game at the same time as Cade Orness, who was a redshirt walk-on this team last year. Seems likely that Parker Jefferson is going to be redshirting this upcoming season, with Worley playing a bunch of minutes at the 4, with Holland playing twice as many minutes as Jefferson did. I thought maybe Jefferson wasn't going to play at all, and we were going to find out that he's banged up or something like that. But the fact that he did play, just not till the very end of the game, I don't think this is a concerning sign of like he's not, the player Gonzaga needs him to be or what. No, we're not going down that route. I just think it looks likely that he's going to redshirt, and because of that, Gonzaga was giving opportunities to other players who they might need to call on at times this upcoming season. Well, folks, we'll have more about what this game means for Gonzaga. We'll have more in our player preview series, of course, as well, using some of the data from this exhibition game. But there was more good news this weekend. There's bad news about Grant Foster, good news about the exhibition game, and good news about the recruiting trail, as well as four-star center Sam Funches became the second commitment for this team in the 2026 class. We're going to talk more about the 7-foot big man, what he brings to Gonzaga, coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, most people cannot name all their financial accounts and even what they're worth, whether it's their 401ks, their properties, or their investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there's Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean and easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes and you can see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. For my wife and I, it's so important to make sure that our finances are up to date and in good shape, and Monarch makes it simple for us to review our finances together. We can both see our budgets, our goals, and our spending activity in one place. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year with code LOCKEDONCollege. All right, folks, closing out the show, talking 2026 recruitment. We had a couple of big storylines break for Mark Few and the Gonzaga Bulldogs late last week. Of course, the Tyon Grant-Foster news coming out on Saturday night. But on Friday morning, we got the update that Sam Funches, who visited Gonzaga in an official capacity for Kraziness in the Kennel 2 weeks ago, is committing to Gonzaga. Sam Funches, again, he showed up on campus for Kraziness in the Kennel. He was the only recruit there after Hurley Brutus was supposed to arrive on campus, but instead committed to LSU earlier that week and canceled his visit to Spokane. And Gonzaga fans were getting real nervous that LSU was going to do it again because Sam Funches finished his visit to Kraziness, talked all sorts of glowingly about the program, the crowd cheering on his name, why he thinks Gonzaga is the perfect fit for him. And then he took his official visit to LSU. And I certainly don't blame Sam for doing that, but it made people a little nervous, a little anxious. Are we about to lose another recruit to LSU? Turned out that was not the case. Sam Funches finished his visit at LSU, took a couple of days, and ultimately made the announcement on Friday morning that he has committed to Mark Few and the Gonzaga Bulldogs. He picked Gonzaga over a top 4. There was 3 different SEC schools, LSU, as well as his 2 hometown programs in Mississippi State and Ole Miss. He's a 7-foot center from Germantown, Mississippi. We've been talking a whole lot about Sam Funches on the show. He actually was originally supposed to take his official visit to Gonzaga back in February for Gonzaga's game against, I believe it was Pepperdine that they were playing when he was supposed to visit, but his team was still in the state playoffs in Mississippi, so that visit got canceled, ended up getting rescheduled for Kraziness in the Kennel. Funches, 7-foot big man, the 84th ranked player in the 2026 recruiting class, according to the 247 Sports rankings. On3 has him 82nd, so he's pretty, kind of in that same range by 2 of the major media outlets. Sam Funches is a very intriguing player. It's worth pointing out he's one of the younger players in his recruiting class. So the upside and the development is definitely there. And again, 7'5" wingspan. He was a very solid rim protector in high school, is a solid rim protector at the high school level, has very good athleticism. You watch the tape, you watch some highlights of him, really good footwork around the rim, lots of spin moves, variety of different post moves. Another lefty. Every single one of Gonzaga's big men this year is a left-handed player. Of course, Graham Ike, Braden Huff, and Ismaila Diani. So going out and getting another lefty in Sam Funches. I don't know if it's a trend. I don't know if it's pattern. I don't know if it's just a coincidence. But Shemet Karnowski, Domantas Sabonis, Sam Dower, there have been a whole lot of lefties down on the block for Gonzaga. And it certainly seems like something that, if they're not looking for, at least something that they identify when looking at their recruits. Funches, again, he's a developmental prospect because he's young for his age. And I think you look at him as somebody who's going to come in the 26-27 season. Graham Ike is going to be out the door because this is his final year of eligibility. But unless something changes, Braden Huff will be back. Ismaila Diani will be back. Parker Jefferson will be back, Funches can kind of slide into that fourth big role and be somebody who develops and grows behind the scenes, gets better throughout his Gonzaga career, gets stronger, more physical, and can develop that really strong offensive game that you want from somebody in a high usage role, while also contributing in a more significant way defensively. A lot of Gonzaga's great low post, super athletic scoring bigs like Huff and EK and Drew Timme and many others have struggled on the defensive end of the floor. I think that Funches has the opportunity to be somebody who can contribute both offensively and defensively in a way that we haven't seen in a while. So this is a really intriguing and exciting addition for Gonzaga. He's number 2 in Gonzaga's 2026 class after Jack Cahill, a 6'5" guard from Germany who committed in early October. Cahill is going to play this upcoming season for Alba Berlin in the Bundesliga basketball league in Germany, playing with pros who are 6, 7, 10 years older than him. Should get him extra prepared to come in as a freshman, although I think he won't technically be a freshman because he'll be 20 years old. I think they'll classify him as a sophomore when he arrives on campus for the 26-27 season. So Gonzaga now has a guard and a center in their 2026 class, and they're looking to add a wing. Luka Foster was on campus for Gonzaga's exhibition game on Sunday against Northwest. He is choosing out of a top 9 that includes Gonzaga as well as Michigan, Oregon, Villanova, Virginia, Pitt, Georgetown, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. He has visited every one of those schools now that he has wrapped up his visit to Gonzaga. Gonzaga in a nice spot as the final visit for Foster, hopefully whenever he makes his decision, whether it's in a day or two or whether it's a little bit later. Gonzaga will be on the front of his mind as the most recent place that he checked out. Foster, the 40th ranked player in the 2026 class. He is a lights out, knockdown three-point shooter. Played on the AAU circuit for team final, averaged 16 points per game, shot 37% on over 5 3-point attempts per game. This dude is one of the best pure scoring wings in the entire 2026 recruiting class. And for Gonzaga, it would be a perfect way to round out this recruiting class, which for months people were getting sort of nervous about. Hey, we don't have anybody committed. And if Foster ends up committing, you suddenly add a guard, a wing, and a center in a 3-week period of time, all who have tremendous upside, including a top 40 recruit in Foster, again, if he makes that decision to commit to Gonzaga. Gonzaga also has another visitor scheduled in Cameron Holmes, who is a 6'6" wing, the 30th ranked player in the class, so a little bit higher than Luka Foster. He's choosing out of a very strong group of programs: Oklahoma, North Carolina, Arizona. There's a few others on there as well. He is set to visit on November 8th when Gonzaga takes on Oklahoma at the Spokane Arena. Although if Foster commits, I'll be interested to see if that Holmes visit ends up happening or not. But again, a very, very talented player. His older brother, Dayron Holmes, was an All-American at Dayton and is now in the NBA with the Denver Nuggets. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for me today here on the Locked On Zags podcast. Thank you so much to those of you who have made this show your first listen or your first watch of the day. We've got tons more fun stuff for you all this week. We're going to continue our player preview series, keep you up to date on what's going on with Tyon Grant-Foster. I'm also going to be at the WCC Media Day on Thursday, getting an opportunity to talk with some of the coaches and players for Gonzaga and for this conference. So check that out. We'll have a show on that on Friday as well. Thanks again, folks, for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And of course, as always, go Zags.